One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. So let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm standing at the crossroads. I'm feeling like a lost soul. Don't know where I wanna go, but all I know is I wanna be free. They're telling me to let it be, but that just ain't in me, no. Jealousy and envy, but all I see is I wanna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Don't let it get the most of me. Eventually, I'm gonna be free. See everything I wanna be, exactly what I'm gonna be. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I'm gonna be free. Let me be free. One day I'm gonna be free. Mentally and physically, emotionally and spiritually. Yeah. One day I'm gonna be free. I told them take their aim off me. Stop trying to get a name off me. If they would just let me be, I'm gonna be free. I told them take them chains off me and throw away the locks and keys. If they would just let me be, eventually I'm gonna be free.
They're back.
What up, though? 7 days, and we're back again for another episode of The Dominant Effect. I'm Archbishop. We got Mike Ball. We got Aaron Olinger. What's up, everybody? Glad everybody tuned in for another one of these talks that we have every week. You know, I was telling you guys earlier that a couple people was asking me, ain't nobody start knocking on your door yet, asking you why you doing these shows. I was like, well, is anything I told them not true? No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, you know, you be talking about a lot of stuff that people, you know, may not what you talk about. Well,
that's why they coming after us.
You know, that ain't stopped us from telling the truth from the beginning. That ain't gonna keep us from doing it now. But before we get started, like always, we check and see what everybody done for the week. So what's up, Aaron? How was your week, brother?
Oh, it's pretty good. I had a gun show this weekend up in Hamilton County, and this time it was finally profitable, so I'm happy about that. But I ended up catching a cold being around all them people that cough and hack, and nobody wants to cover their mouth. So, but seeing that I made money, it's not as a bitter pill to have to swallow. So that was my week.
Totally understandable. Yeah, for me, I had a great weekend. So my buddy Blair One Percenter, who you've actually seen in the chat many of times, everyone has, and he rode his motorcycle over from Texas, stayed with me for the weekend. We had a great time. I got to show him around, at least northern Alabama a little bit. And then I had my buddy from down south who I've performed with. His name is Nick Ray. And he and his publicist came up, hung out with me, and took me out to dinner on, I think that was Sunday. And then, yeah, it's been an eventful week for sure.
That's what's up. Well, what's been going on? What hasn't been going on? Been moving around like always. We just got the Lawful Ones finished last night. Like always, a late night. We didn't end up finishing till like 2:00 in the morning, but we finally got it done. So they're in the process of finishing up those last minute edits to have it sent out to the distributors. So I'll have word on that as to when it's coming out.
So you said that was your last scene, though?
Yeah, we
Oh,
did
wow.
the last night. So it would have actually been done a long time ago, but it was sent out before, and then they sent it back, and they wanted us to make it a series instead of a
Right.
feature film. So we had to go back and chop it up, and then go back and add like 15 more scenes to it to stretch it out to be able to make it a full series. So we got the last little bit of it done last night, and right now it's in the editors got it, trying to get it patched in to what we need and have it sent out by the end of the week. So so as of now, that's done, and as I said, once we get word that's exactly when that's coming out, then we'll keep you posted. Also, part 1 of Riding Dirty is supposed to be hitting either this week or next week from the word that I got. Which
Oh, shit.
Good. They've been holding it. I mean, it's already Tubi already has it. They've had it for months. It's just that they said that they have a list as to how they put it out.
And they do their showing.
Right. So like certain genres they put out, and they do it in order.
Sure.
So it's just waiting for the come around for it to drop on there. So they said it should be either this week or next week. Part 1 should be out, which would be good. So yeah, everything's working out. We got Born Protected that's going to be starting up hopefully the 3rd or 4th week in October. That's going to be the first film under Diamond Effect Entertainment. So that one's going to start up in the latter parts of October, and that's going to be a really good one. So there's a lot of we got a real good cast on that. It's a lot of plot twists. A lot of you really got to sit there and watch it. But it's a real good movie.
You're gonna have to let us know also if there's any like premieres that go on. I definitely want to participate. It'd be fun to be able to show up.
Well, they did talk about doing a premiere for Lawful Ones. We were in conversation last night about that. So once they finalize exactly what they're going to do, then I'll let you know. So we're going to jump into this topic today, and the title is who really runs this world? So here's the question that you need to ask yourself. Do world leaders actually run this world? Or are they just actors playing a script and somebody else actually wrote? So when you watch the news, you see the president, the prime ministers, the kings, the parliaments, House, Senate, several, other lawmakers, governors, whatever. But if you pay attention long enough, you'll realize a couple things. You'll notice that some of these leaders change throughout the years, but the game is still the same. Wars keep happening, money keeps flowing in one direction, and regular people like us, we stay struggling. So who's really pulling the strings here? So that's what we're gonna get in today. So I broke this up in a couple different sections because it's once I started digging into it, I started finding other little pieces that it was like, yeah, I gotta add this to it. And then once I had all this stuff, I'm like, okay, I gotta separate this to make it, like bring it down the line to where it all makes sense. So the first segment I had listed as I called it the private rooms of power. And once I
like that.
I start reading into it, you'll understand the reason why I called it that. So most people believe that the power is on display, like in parliaments. You got the White House, press conferences. But
like open display.
Right. But the truth is, most important conversations are the ones that you never see. So take like Bilderberg meetings. So since 1954, once a year, you got 120 of the world's most powerful people, prime ministers, CEOs, bankers, media moguls, etc. They all gather behind closed doors. No press allowed, no transcripts released, no official story. It's just networking, so they say. But ask yourself, if nothing's important is going on, why all the secrecy? Or you look into the World Economic Forum. You see public panels, you see the speeches and the headlines. But what you don't see is what's going on behind closed doors in these staterooms, these hotels where a lot of these deals are cut, where a lot of these presidents shake hands with billionaires, and billionaires set the tone for a lot of the global policy that's going on. So here's the thing. Nobody votes for Klaus Schwab, if people know who he is. Nobody votes for him. Nobody votes for the billionaire and the lobbyists that's sitting across from the heads of state. But their fingerprints are all over the policies. So let's put it like this. They don't write the laws for the World Economic Forum. But people who influence these lawmakers, they're all in the same room. All the decisions that shape billions of lives around the world are all being whispered in places that we never enter. Is that democracy? Or is that something else? So what do you think about that, Aaron?
Well, let me say this. When you sent me the topic, I kind of laughed because I have a book, The Unseen Hand by Ralph Epperson. And it's basically on historically how different things have changed and shaped society. I mean, the Unseen Hand, the book itself argues that history is not accidental. Wars, revolutions, economic crisis are not random events, but the result of careful planning by hidden powers. It basically covers two views. The accidental view of history says events happen by chance. The second view is conspiratorial view of history says events are shaped by secret groups seeking control. Now you got powerful elites, blue bloods, international bankers, secret societies that have orchestrated major events to increase their wealth and their influence. I'll give you two examples. The American Civil War was deliberately prolonged so that the bankers could tighten their hold over the economy and have a better control that when it ended, they could take the lands and take over the South using their carpetbaggers. A second example would be World War II, how it was manipulated. Japan attempted multiple times to surrender. They offered to surrender multiple times, but those efforts were blocked to continue to justify the dropping of the atomic bomb. So that whole situation was totally manipulated. But I'm gonna stop there for right now because I don't want to get too deep into this. But you could clearly see.
It's so easy to do too.
Oh man, I mean, I can go for a minute on this, but you would be surprised. I mean, I'm giving you an example. I'm gonna use George W. Bush as an example. He was someone that they was watching for a period of time. They watch for rising stars, and they recruit them, and they monitor them, and they bring them into these secret groups to share power with, but also use them to expand and perpetuate their own society. George W. Bush was a member of Skull and Bones. I don't know if people know that. The system itself exists not to help people, but to perpetuate itself, to gain influence and to gain power and to control the money. But I'm gonna stop for right there. I'm gonna stop there.
Yeah. I ironically put a poll for you guys in my chat. I bared the question of who pulls the strings, and I put Congress, the president, Israel, and Ukraine. Right. Now, ironically, I purposely left some stuff out there because I just wanted to see what people would, either vote for, and then what the live chat is saying. Now, I look at this as you have to follow the money situation in all cases, in every case, right?
Oh gosh,
and
yeah.
understanding where the money's coming from and who is lending the money, which is true power, right? So I look at those kind of things, such as like the Rothschilds and all, other situations such as like George Soros. I look at all these kind of situations as these big power players that kind of do it in your face, but at the same time they do it behind, and they do this like roundabout way of being able to do it. It's very interesting. And you guys brought it up about lobbyists and these people that are investing, these billionaires that really, like how AB said, sets the tone for them, but actually they're just buying it out completely. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's very interesting to watch.
Mm-hmm. You know what? Actually, what you just said there actually goes into the second section that I had, which was invisible power versus visible power, and dealing with the money and the hidden finance and all of that. So, being that you just brought it up, we'll jump into it. Okay. So, so when you're dealing with that, you got to understand that power just doesn't live in these rooms, because it lives in money, and not the money that you keep in your checking account. I'm talking about trillions of dollars that's hidden offshore. Back in 2016, you had the Panama Papers, which blew the lid off like 11.5 million documents that showed world leaders, celebrities, corporations
Really?
had all these secret shell companies and offshore accounts that hid megabucks. And we're not talking about a few million. We're talking about a shadow financial system that was bigger than the GDP of entire countries. Mm-hmm. A few years later came the Pandora Papers. Same story, different names. But this one had presidents, ministers, billionaires that were all caught moving money that way. Mm-hmm. And while sometimes it was legal, a lot of it was designed basically to keep it a big secret for the most part. Now, why does that matter? You may ask. Because when you hide money, you also hide influence. Who funded these lobbying groups? Who bankrolled the election campaigns? Who's paying for that independent think tank that you see on the news every now and again? If you can trace the money, like you said, Mike, you can trace the power. And that's the point that we try to make here. So if you don't know who owns the money, then you don't know who owns the policy. So once you start connecting it, the hidden money just isn't offshore. It flows back into a lot of these politics, AKA these lobbyists. So right. Lobbyists go out, they make these they make these deals with these House members, Senate, these different Parliament members or whatever, in order to get what they want done passed. Slipped in these bills like we be talking about that you don't know anything about. They get that little extra bump on the back end of it. You know what I mean? And all's good in the world. You know what I mean? We don't know about it because how many times do we actually go and read these bills that they put out? Very rarely, unless you hear about something and then you go in and actually go through and look at it for yourself. Other than that, don't nobody pay attention to that. You know what I mean? Hell, they voting on shit now that they're not even reading.
Well, one big point about that is like the big beautiful bill, right? You know, the 1,179 pages or whatever it was. I didn't read the entirety of every single page. Yeah, did I read them most of it? Yes, I did. But no way, 1,179 pages or whatever it was. Like, get out of town. There's no way the average person's gonna like scroll through this. The average voter, right?
Right. And you know, like a lot of them say, like Houseman, for instance, you know, they have aides or whatever, and they're gonna say, okay, read this and tell me all the key points to it.
Right.
You know damn well they're not even gonna read it. They're gonna skim through, check out a couple of little things on it, and they're gonna say, okay, well, it just has this and this and a little bit of this and a little of that. Oh, okay, doesn't really major. Nah, ain't nothing major to it. And then they go push it. They just go in there and vote for it. They don't read it. They have no idea. And then once it hits mainstream and they start talking about it, and then it makes a fuss, then they jump out and start talking about it. You know, about like how Marjorie Taylor Greene did. She jumped out and was like, oh, well, I really didn't read that section, so I didn't know anything about it. Well, how'd you vote for it then? You know what I mean? So a lot of this stuff, it plays a part because there's always, everything isn't always what you see. Like I said a little bit ago, a lot of these deals are made in rooms that nobody's there but them. You know, they agree on stuff, they shake hands on stuff, and they move on. Nobody
totally. And that's locked in stone now. You know, kind of thing. That's the way they're going to vote, or whatever the case is, right?
Exactly. Go ahead, Aaron.
Yeah, I want to go back in history a little bit. Tell you guys about a president called Andrew Jackson. He was not fooled by the central banks and he fought something called the bank wars back then against the banks. He said, those who plan wars, depressions, and other calamities do not want their planning activities known. So that's proof right there, what you said of how they're doing these behind the door deals. But he also said, those who control the credit of a nation direct the policy of governments and hold in the hollow of their hands the destiny of its people. So he clearly states that if a bank is powerful enough to control the credit of a nation, which would be the central banks, that they can direct policy of that government. And that's what we see going on. And then an example of your behind the scene deal, I'm gonna say Dick Cheney with Halliburton. I mean, he practically sat on the board of Halliburton. That's insider trading at the least. But you sitting there getting government contracts for a company that you own. You know, I mean, you're using your influence and cutting some behind the scene deals. So that would be a clear example of it. But when Granddaddy Rothschild sent his 10 or 12 sons out to different countries around the world to seize their banking systems and start the central bank and set it up, and the one that came here set up the Federal Reserve, their whole goal was to take over and control the nations. I mean, World War I, World War II, didn't they fund both sides of the war? I mean, the whole thing is to control the money, create these calamities, and profit from them. And they made a ton of money. But let me stop there for right now.
No, you're absolutely right, especially with, regarding of, the central banking system and how they, his own son sent out and go over here to North America, you're going to to the United States, you're going to Brazil, you're going wherever the case is. It's kind of very interesting how that dynamic was. And you're right, because you can fund both sides of the war, but to them, they'll take a loss over here because they're going to net win for themselves, right? So it's, yeah, brutal.
Mm-hmm. Now, the ugly truth to that, what Aaron was talking about is absolutely right, but here's the ugly truth about that. Whether we believe it or not, war is profitable. So every year you have these corporations that spend millions to these lobbying governments, and in return, they get billions in these contracts. The U.S. alone, defense giants like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, they pour more money in Washington than just about anybody. But what's the result? Military budgets, they keep climbing. And right now, there's really doing well. Now you really don't have any direct threats as of right now. But the way the temperature's going right now, I mean, that can all change very quickly. But so back in, if I'm not mistaken, it was 23. The world top 100 arm companies made about 632 billion in arms sales. That data came from the Stockholm Peace Research Institute. And then progressively through 24 and 25, those numbers just grew. So sit back and think for a second. Every bomb dropped, every missile launched, every tank that was ordered, that's all profit. So when these politicians tell you they can't afford health care, or we can't afford education, or we got to cut SNAP benefits, and ask them, why can't they afford to cut it another way? Why is there not another way you can do this? Being the fact that you're making all this money on this back end, and they know they're making this money on the back end, because there is a quote uncomfortable question you should ask. If peace broke out today, how many of these powerful people would actually lose money?
Majority.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it doesn't just stop with the lobbying, though, because these same people that's making these decisions in the government are also the same ones that walk through the doors of these industries. So a lot of this stuff kind of goes hand in hand with each other. They don't, like you hear them on a lot of these shows and stuff, and they talk about that, some of these people are considered like warmongers and stuff like that. Like they want war to go on. Well, sure they do. And it's around the world. It's not just here. It's around the world.
Right.
Because
it's a global economy for them.
Exactly. Because war is profit. Back in World War II, before the U.S. even got involved in that, dealing with Pearl Harbor, they was making money hand over fist in the industry, because they was making a lot of the tanks and stuff, like tanks and planes, stuff like that, and was sending it over there. They profited big time off of that. That's actually one of the reasons how the U.S. even built up to be the economic power that we are now, is dealing with World War II and what they were doing until they got bombed by Pearl Harbor. And then that's something else that they also knew about. They knew that was coming for what they did to Japan. So they knew it was coming. But in the meantime, they made a shitload of money in the process, because, like I said, war is profitable, whether you believe it or not. Right. Go ahead, Aaron.
Okay. And I do want to say this, going along with what you're saying, how profitable war could be. Power in history can be manipulated. Events that look accidental can be part of a larger plan. We knew that Japan was becoming a manufacturing power back then, and they was rapidly climbing up Americans' heels. We had to take them out and destroy their manufacturing capability to buy our manufacturers time, because they could manufacture and beat us on what the cost of the employees would be. So we had to destroy that structure that they was building to give our industry more. So they took advantage of that. They manipulated that history. And then going with the secret societies that are and the power influencers that are doing this, secrecy protects power. The strength of hidden groups comes from staying invisible. They don't want to ever come forward. And you know about the Trilateral Commission, Committee on Foreign Affairs, Rockefellers. They don't want their name mentioned on how they're influencing things. And then you have economic control drives conflict. Wars can be engineered to create debt, to centralize the banking power, to give them more power, and to profit the elites. So there's three advantages right there. I mean, they can create debt and collapse a nation's economy. They can cause the bank to come in and take over more authority, and then make the money for the elites at the same time. So there's motivation there for them to do what they're doing. But let me stop there.
I always like it when he say that. Let me stop.
Yeah, because he knows that he's still got like 16 rounds behind it. He's like, you know what? Actually, I've been talking for a minute. I'll just stop here.
Right.
Awesome.
That's why I'll be laughing.
Yeah, hell yeah, it's awesome.
Right, that brain get to going and it's going.
I love it. I mean, you guys are very knowledgeable, so it's awesome.
Man. Okay, Aaron. So I'm gonna give you something to think about, then.
Okay.
So let's talk about this revolving door here when we're talking about war and defense spending and stuff like that. So let's talk about that revolving door here, and I'm gonna give you an example. So picture this: the defense secretary signs off on billions of dollars on contracts for like fighter jets, for instance. 2 years later, that same defense secretary is sitting on the board of the company cashing those checks. That's not imagination. That's reality. That's what really happened. And it's called the revolving door. Now, the constant spin between government and industry, and former regulations that former regulators, that now became lobbyists and contractors, ex-politicians that became corporate advisors, and then you have a lot of corporate execs that slipped over into the government side, and it's just revolving back and forth. So a lot of the research that I looked up showed that these companies with former government entities, their payroll was more successful dealing with lobbying than they were when they actually held these offices. And a lot of times when they make phone calls to these people, those calls automatically get returned, and a lot of their contracts get approved. So that door basically spins so fast that it's hard to tell who's in government and who's actually there to serve the people. And what happens to the future employers of these companies? I mean, because you see what they're doing is this flip-flop. You know what I mean? These ones that was over here, like, for instance, a couple weeks ago, you heard of, or past couple months, you've heard of a lot of these House members that said that they wasn't going to run for re-election, or they were going to retire or whatever. Well, they're retiring because they're going over to these other jobs that's already been offered to them, which is way more lucrative than what they're doing over here.
Right.
So they're doing the flip flop. You know what I mean? So you may get it with the lobbyists over here to help pass some bills dealing with, let's say, Big Pharma, for instance, and Big Pharma paying you to slip these into these bills, slip these regulations and stuff into these bills, And then when you decide that you're done being over here on this side, then we're gonna give you a cushy job over here with Big Pharma, and you're gonna be able to make this money.
And now you're hooked up for life. Yep. Now you're hooked up. Yep.
Exactly. So it's a revolving door. You know what I mean? All you gotta do is just get to you just gotta get here. Once you get here and you start being able to make deals and your word, what you say you're gonna do, and you actually fulfill that to where they're benefiting off of you, then you get this in return. Like I said, if you've been paying attention to the news, stuff like that, you've heard of several House members saying that they're not gonna go run for re-election, they're gonna retire or whatever, and then you hear about them being offered jobs on the private section. They already had it mapped out. They knew
that's their only incentive. You know what I mean? To get out of, for instance, any bit of Congress, right? I mean, these guys that end up going, you know what, I'm not going to run because now I've got in the back of my mind I can make $1.5 million per year at this company doing nothing, and I'd rather just take that cushy job and I don't have to deal with this crazy landscape anymore.
Right. So like, are you dealing with that because all hell getting ready to break loose? So you getting up out of this shit? Like, okay, let me get over here where it's safe. Well, I don't got to deal with this. You know what I mean? But you done been there for all these years, but you done made those connections that you can pretty much do whatever you want to do.
No kidding.
And they work inside that group. You know what I mean? So I remember when I was in last year when I was in DC for and I was up there with the Senate and went to the game and all that stuff. Remember that last year when I went there?
And I saw you taking they were taking pictures with you and all this shit. It was awesome. Right.
So when I was at the party that night after the game, and it was all kind of senators and House members, lobbyists, all that stuff. All these people was there. Now, mind you, a lot of them I didn't know. A lot of them I recognized, from the face, which is how you seen some of the pictures and stuff. But there was this one particular guy that, he was bouncing around all over the place. Little guy, bouncing all over the place, dancing with everybody. He was drunk off his ass. And he was everywhere. And I just kept trying to figure out, like, who is this guy, right? So he kept coming up to me, talking to me, and then he would dart off. And it'd be a woman over here, he'd jump straight over there. And he was all over the place. Well, finally, I walked outside to smoke, and he come outside. And that was when, right before I was there talking to Congressman Donald from Florida. I was talking to him, and this guy comes out, and he goes to Congressman Donald, and he speaks to him, and then he turns around, and he was like, "Hey, do you know him?" And he went to introduce me, and he was like, "Yeah, I know him. We was upstairs talking," and he walks off. Well, so Congressman Donald was like, "Where do you know him from?" I said, "Well, I just met him upstairs. So, I talked to him several times." Well, come to find out, this guy was one of the biggest lobbyists in DC. So he ended up giving me his card or whatever. When I came home, I looked up his firm and all that stuff. He was one of the biggest lobbyists in DC that I've been sitting up here. He was just running around like a little madman and not even knowing who he was until, like I said, when I was there, having that conversation, and I found out exactly who he was. But they're everywhere, and this guy here, I never would have thought that that's what he was. Now, he kind of looked like he could have been like a lawyer or something. He kind of gave you that vibe that he could be a lawyer or something like that. Nothing like what I found out he was once I started doing the research as to what all he was involved in. I didn't realize that he was like that big into everything.
Isn't that kind of the majority of those kind of people, though? Like those guys that, on face value, you've never seen, you don't know, they're not big politicians or whatever the case is, but these guys are superpowers behind the scenes, and there's a lot of them. I'm sure that you are amongst a lot of those exact type of people, You don't even know because, they're just kind of plain clothes people, right?
Right, right. And see, like I said, I didn't know it was a lot of people there that I didn't know. I met several people throughout the day. So when I seen them at the party, of course, I went to them and was having, we was sitting there talking, talking, having a drink or whatever. And then when other people came, they was like, "Oh, this is August's friend from Florida, blah, 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 blah," and did the intro. You know what I mean? So I didn't know who the fuck they were. You know what I mean? This one particular guy, though, it was just the fact that he just kept coming back and forth talking to me, which, like, who is this dude?
Yeah. I'm gonna dig into that a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
But then when I asked Congressman Donald who he was, and he told me, and then I looked
You're
him
like,
up like,
oh shit. Oh shit.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. It was crazy. It was crazy. So we're gonna jump back. Go ahead, Aaron,
Okay.
before we go.
Yeah, I want to add something to what you're saying when talk about power and influence here. President Garfield said, "Whoever controls the volume of money is the amount of money that's in circulation inside of a country. So whoever controls the volume of money in any country is absolute master of all industry and commerce." This money that we see here at the very top, it says Federal Reserve Note.
That's right.
You may call it American money, but it's owned by the Federal Reserve. This is their money. They're controlling all industry and commerce. That's the reason why Trump is having trouble with the Federal Reserve. He wants to bring back industry and commerce, and he's arguing with the Federal Reserve, and they're giving him all kinds of beef that he wants to get rid of or fire one of them over there because they're pulling the strings. He may be the president of the most powerful nation in the world, but the person that controls the volume of money in circulation, that is controlling all industry and commerce inside the United States, is the Federal Reserve Bank. I'll stop there.
Let me ask you this, Aaron.
Okay.
So who do you think gains the most from all of this?
Well, as far as manipulating events and stuff, it's all to create more influence, create more power. It's the blue bloods, the ruling elite, the secret societies, everyone that's controlling power. I mean, even BlackRock would be one of the newer members to the pool. They're controlling billions of dollars. They've got more money than some nations have right now. So when you can buy influence, you have power. I mean, look at Hillary Clinton. I mean, she went to work for the United Nations for a period of time before she ran for office again. And to have that connection, for them to be watching you and want to bring you into the fold, man, you can pull all kinds of strings for them, but then they can pull all kinds of strings for you. Now, as far as the people goes, I'm going to read you something from a book called Tragedy and Hope by Carol Quigley. It says the goals of these banking establishments was nothing less than to create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole. This is all planned, and they're patient. They can sit back and wait. As long as they're controlling the money, they control absolute influence.
Real quick, I just wanted to add on that,
Okay.
Aaron, about BlackRock. So as of late 2024, early 2025, it was reported approximately $11.6 trillion in assets under management of BlackRock.
Mm-hmm.
$11.6 trillion that they control. And that's insanity.
See, now that was in 23, right?
24, end of 24, beginning of 25.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so now it's probably. I'm pretty sure it's way more than that now. But I was seeing a thing the other day where they were, there was a trying to think exactly where it was. There was a silver mine that was discovered. Uh, it
Oh,
was,
I know
it
what you're
was
talking about.
like they had started mining in it, and then they stopped. I think it was like maybe like 1% of the silver was
Mine.
actually taken out of it,
Right.
but they ended up getting their hands on it.
Well,
Uh,
they made sure to get their hands on it. There's a
mm,
difference there. No matter what they're going to do, they're going to get it.
right, right. You know, I'm telling you what, I had this crazy dream last night. When I woke up this morning, I had it on my mind, and
Oh,
it was gold and silver was like extremely high, extremely high. And silver was literally like $9,000 an ounce.
Oh shit.
It,
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it
yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
yeah, it was like extremely high.
You wake
And
up and you're instant mega rich.
right, it was just like extremely high. And gold was like 2 times that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it was but in my dream, it was like um people were going door to door seeing if you had it because they had put a law in that you was not allowed to have gold and silver.
Oh
And they
shit,
were
they
going
outlawed it. Yeah.
and they were going house to house to make sure you didn't have anything.
They're coming in sweeping.
Right. It was crazy because I woke up with it and I wrote it down like real quick before I forgot about it. And it was
Damn.
crazy because it was like military squads that was going house to house,
Kind of like ICE
going
agents
like
coming in
going
just
to people's houses to make sure that they didn't have like any kind of gold and silver like loose that they could, what I mean? And if they did, then they took it.
oh man.
But it kind
Well,
of
that's a real realistic scenario too.
Yeah.
right. It was weird. I mean, because like I remember that whole dream. It was weird. So when I got up, I instantly just started writing it down because it seemed so real. You know what I mean? That this is what they was doing. But gold and silver was actually outlawed. You wasn't allowed to have it. You know what I mean?
Oh,
And then
man.
we're looking at a lot of stuff now where they're grabbing these spots left and right. These gold deposits, uranium deposits, silver deposits, all of these resources. You know what I
Right.
mean? You have them to where they buying up loads and loads of farmland, stuff like that, because they want the water that's underneath. They're saying water is going to be the next gold later on because they can be able to control it. So it's there's a lot that's going on behind the scenes. And when you look at a lot of this stuff, then and you start reading up on it, and you like, man, this is something that if you talked to me about 10 years ago, this would be like a far-fetched
Yeah. Super conspiracy.
theory.
Yeah.
This is like, dude, go to fuck
Get your
home.
tinfoil hat, dude.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, just get away from me, dude. I ain't trying to hear what
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
talking about. It's
Go
bullshit.
smoke your weed over there,
Right. But it's crazy because a lot of the stuff that we heard back then that we pushed off, saying that, man, that ain't gonna happen, it's actually stuff that's actually coming into play now.
Well, AB, the big thing that I refer to is, for instance, like ownership is completely what the government allows to, it's a facade ownership. When we interviewed that guy that unfortunately the government came in and took his land, watching that and actually hearing the story, of course, being able to be a part of that interview, it's very interesting because that's really what taught me right there, that specific situation on that interview, that ownership is just a facade. It's what the government allows you to have, and that's what reminds me with that dream that you had, right, about the ownership of gold and stuff like that. And all of a sudden they're just coming in and taking because now it's so valuable or whatever the case is. And now they're going to take it. It all comes down to force.
Right. I mean, and then you also have where, back what they said with the World Economic Forum, that by 2030 you will own nothing and be happy.
100%.
So
Yeah.
so a lot of this stuff that's that they talk about, and people write off when you hear them talking about this stuff. So what the World Economic Forum said, you got the Agenda 2030, you got the Project 2025, all of those. I mean, this shit came out way before it took place. It came out, and people said, "No, that ain't gonna happen. They ain't gonna do that." Well, ain't nobody spending their fucking time to write 1,000 fucking pages and not do it. You know what I mean? Pretty common sense, they gonna do it. No, it's not gonna happen. But what's happened? 47% of it has already been put into effect. But you knew about it and you brushed it off. So now you got the 2030 agenda. So those of you who don't know anything about that, look it up. Read it for yourself.
That's I didn't even know that there is a 2030 agenda yet. I'm interested. I'm interested to know what think tank is doing it for sure, and who's funding it.
Right. No idea. I don't. Well, I'm sorry. I personally don't know. Now, can I find out? Yes.
Of course, that's part of the thing.
Okay. Mike, I sent you a text. If you can put that picture up, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, it'll take me a minute to do. Yeah.
Okay. When you were talking about gold, I'm gonna talk while you're doing it. It was Executive Order 6102, issued on April 5th, 1933, by Franklin Delano Roosevelt. That's the president that was in the wheelchair that died while he was in office. He was pressured by the Federal Reserve and Rothschild family and things for everyone that owned gold certificates, different things inside the United States to turn in their gold for paper money. And not only that, they lowered the value of gold down to $20 an ounce. And then within a year or two later, after having collected it all and upping the financial status of the Rothschild family, because they was collecting it from around different countries in the world, they told everybody to put their money into the banks, which gave them an opportunity to take the paper money they offered you and loan it out so that they can make money off the opposite end of that coin. But you were faced with a $10,000 fine, this was right after the Great Depression. I mean, so people were poor. $10,000 was probably equal to $100,000 right now in our current currency, and you had to turn it in by a certain date, or you were faced with jail, a fine, or both. And they're not playing. When they say turn it in, they're coming after it. So your dream ain't that far-fetched, man, because this actually happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember.
No
I
kidding.
remember us talking about this one time before, that they gave out. Didn't they give out like the bonds and whatnot? And then, like, once the war was over, they went to get the gold back, and they couldn't use the bonds.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought that was what that was.
But they issued you paper money, and then a year or two later, they raised the price of gold up to where it was. So while you were turning it in, getting paper money for it, they devalued it so they didn't have to give you very much money. Then the following year, now it's done doubled in price, and you got very little out of it. So I mean, the whole thing was a big trick. But because the money was there, I mean, the Rothschilds were wielding so much power around the world, and they could collapse the United States economy. I mean, they already put us into the Great Depression. The Federal Reserve did. They did that on purpose. They didn't like the president was in office. They continued to raise interest rates till the damn stock market collapsed. So they already done got one president, and Delano realized that we were on a war footing. They could collapse the economy again. And he thought to play ball rather than go up and buck the odds. And man, that the American public did not come out on the better end of that. But the Rothschilds gained more influence and more power collecting all the gold in the world. So,
well, that was just one of their millions of plays that they've done.
Yeah. But that shows clear manipulation.
Like you explained, it comes down to the people that control that money, right?
Right.
That's it. End of the story.
So let me ask you this, Aaron. Now, do you believe or do you think that there is not just the U.S., but all the way around, do you think that there is how can I put it, a government inside of the government?
Oh, most definitely.
Basically, like you have these people here that's actually running the show, and then you have these people that's out in the front,
It's a table of executives. Totally.
Right. Like they're the ones that's pushing it, but these orders coming from here. You know what I mean? So like on the thumbnail that I posted, you see where it has the presidents there, and it has like the strings, but then you got the puppet master up above.
Which, by the way, is a sick freaking thumbnail that you made there.
So, bro, I appreciate it. So do you think that's true?
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, you look at Trilateral Commission or Committee on Foreign Relations. I mean, you think that Committee on Foreign Relations is just dealing with local governments or something. No, they're wielding some serious power. They're making decisions, and then the government has to follow those decisions.
Mm-hmm. Right, which would also kind of put it into what we was talking about before with the crashing of the dollar and the CBDC and all that stuff. See, that's all that comes from, like I said, whether we like it or not, this stuff has already been determined.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know what I mean? Now, what made me think about that government inside the government? Because I remember back before when they were talking about, and this is back a while ago, when Bill Clinton tried to go into Area 51, and they wouldn't let him go in, and he was like, "Well, what do you mean I can't go in? I'm the president," and they wouldn't let him go in. They wouldn't even tell him anything about anything that was going on there. And then they said that that Bush had tried it, Obama had tried it, and it was like there was even stuff that was going on that wasn't even their business, that they didn't even have information to, which led me to believe, like, okay, there has to be something else going on. If there's secrets that even the president don't know, and it's none of your business, and don't ask questions about it, then who else is running it? I mean,
100%. Real quick, I got to give a special shout out. My buddy Straight Jacket in the chat there. He sends $5 over to the Cash App saying, for Hector, Hector just left Harry's shop with 3 T66 turbos. Shit. Hey, man, I thank you for making it rain on us, my man.
so do you think, dealing with these countries with what's going on now, do you think that how can I put it? Like the fate is sealed for a lot of these places.
It's bought and paid for. Absolutely.
I would say yes, because most of the populations are not aware. In order to have an antidote to this situation, education is going to be key. And in education, I'm going to say both awareness and knowledge that this is existing, both awareness and knowledge of the manipulation and being able to see it. That's your only tools to be able to figure out how you're going to manipulate your way through the manipulations being directed toward us.
Mm-hmm. Makes a lot of sense. You got something to add on that, Mike?
No, man. Like I say, in closing, for me at least, is just that follow the money in all cases, whether it be in politics, anything. That's going to tell you who is paying for that agenda. Whose agenda it is. I mean, so that's end of story, man. It's unfortunate the way that people take advantage of these powers. A lot of us good people wouldn't, necessarily put so much. And once you realize how harsh and brutal and chaotic it is, and cynical, actually. You know what I mean? It's terrible, but always look back and who's paying for their narrative. Just look out for that. Always follow money.
We got her.
Okay. I want to give a live example here. Under Biden administration, uh, everyone knew, both China, Russia, everybody knows that the main thing that the American public is worried about is the cost of living. Can they make it month to month right now? Because they're pressed. What did the Federal Reserve do? They raised interest rates and they created a tight money policy which created inflation. What did it do? It ended up raping everybody's bank accounts because now everything costs more. And where you thought you had some money saved up that meant something, it didn't. I mean, a $20 bill might as well be a $100 bill as far as the value right now. I mean, the $100 bill is the new 20. Back when I was young, $20 could buy you a grocery cart full of groceries. Now $100 might get you 4 bags. I mean, when Biden said inflation is transitory, that was a lie. When Biden said that a little bit of inflation never hurt nobody, that was a big damn lie. And then you're looking at how bad inflation dealt with the average American person. It became a big transfer of money. My money's flying out of my account, going into big people, corporations' hands. It sure ain't staying with me no more. So that's a live example of market manipulation by the Federal Reserve against the American public. I'll stop there.
Yeah, with this, that's a lot. But then too, like I say, you also got to put in. I seen an article, was it yesterday, day before yesterday, where a lot of these companies were saying that was talking about the tariffs and was talking about how they had made, what was it, 40 billion that they made off the tariffs so far.
Mm-hmm.
And the way they had it worded was that they were they had made this 40 billion off these tariffs with these different countries, and they named off the countries that they were getting this money from. And now we all know who pays for these tariffs.
Well, so, who it reduces down to, right.
So we all know who pays for this shit. But I thought it was funny how they worded it to make it seem like that the only one that was paying for this shit was over here. Like we wasn't paying for that. Like bullshit. Like, you know what I mean? And this is the part that actually gets to me, and the reason why we do this show, because you get fucking tired of being lied to. You know what I mean? Just tell the truth about some shit. Most people will probably go with you if you told the truth about it. You know what I mean?
I agree with that 100%.
So if you actually put out there, like, okay, we're going to put this tariff out. Now, mind you, it's going to raise the price up over here. You're going to have to pay a little bit over here, but this is what we're going to have to do in order to be able to stabilize this. Most people have been like, okay, cool. But when you put this whole facade of it, this is not what's going on. And then you find out later that is what's going on. And you getting hit in your pocket that you didn't think you was going to get hit on. That's something different. You know what I mean? Just like, for instance, we was talking about last week, when a lot of them limitations on this big, beautiful bill doesn't go into effect till after the midterm elections. So right now, everybody think that a lot of this shit is good. And it is good for right now. But when it actually takes effect and you get hit, what are you going to do then? You see what I'm saying? So a lot of this shit is like, it's like smoke and mirrors. You know what I mean? And if you don't try to actually go out and get this information, I mean, like the stuff that we find on here, it's not hard to find at all. Look it up.
You gotta be willing to actually dig for it.
Like, you don't gotta take our word for none of this shit.
Yep.
Just go look
everything up.
It's right there. I mean, but this is where a lot of people get fooled, because instead of looking it up for yourself, getting the information for yourself. You just take the word for somebody else, figuring in your mind they don't have no reason to lie to me.
Right. No kidding.
You know what I mean? One thing I learned real quick from a young age is that a pair of lips will tell you anything. Doesn't have to be true.
Damn straight.
So we had 105 on here. And so here's the question I'm gonna leave with everybody. So who really runs this world? It's not the faces that's on the ballots. It's not the ones, it's the ones that's behind the curtains. The ones that don't need your vote. The ones that you don't have to ask questions to, and they don't have to answer your questions, and they don't even want your attention. So if you want control over your future, from this point on, you need a couple things you're going to need. You're going to need transparency, open money, open meetings, and limits on this revolving door that we was talking about previously. But until then, the puppet master is going to keep pulling the strings while the rest of us just keep clapping for the show. So once again, ending the show, I want to thank everybody for coming out. As always, like, follow, share, subscribe, push the video out to you people. Let them check it out. I mean, because the stuff that we're talking about is important. Okay, there's a lot of work that goes into these shows. You know what I mean? This ain't a podcast where we just sit here and talk about bullshit and get 1 million views.
Right.
You know what I mean? Now we get decent views, but we're talking about real shit. And it needs to get out to people because people need to know what's really going on out here. Like I said, if we can take the risk of talking about it, then you can take the risk behind your camera, behind the screen, and send it to somebody. Real simple. But those of you that's not on the Facebook page, go on there, punch in the Dominant Effect on Facebook. We post a lot of stuff on there all the time. A lot of information, a lot of stuff that we pick up throughout the week. We post on there. Also, if you hit the little QR code at the top, that's to the actual website, which we have a lot of merchandise, stuff like that. You can also watch previous shows. They also upload on there that you can watch at any given time. We're going to be adding some stuff on there. And actually, if you go on there and become a member, like a $2.99 member, whatever, you get like a 15% discount. And you also get to purchase things on there that you don't normally see, that you won't see if you're just going down the list. There's a lot of other stuff that they have on there. Check that out. Also, before we end, we're going to play a video at the end of this. My son, he's, I think some of you may have heard me talk about it. Some of you may not, but my son, he's a wide receiver for Middle Tennessee State. And, you know, of course they have like, you know, NIL, stuff like that. So he's been going through school or whatever, and they have this little program where, you know, they sell their merch, stuff like that. And, you know, I mean, the money goes to them to help them with the school and stuff like that. So I went through and we made a little 30-second commercial for him to post out here to kind of help him out. So I'll have it on the Dominant Effect page. I'm gonna play it here. I'm gonna put it on the other networks. But like I said, he's a good kid, man. He's a straight A student,
Man.
Playing football, trying to live his dream. You know what I mean? He got a dream of being pro, and that's what he's trying to do. You know what I mean? So as a father, what am I gonna do? Support.
Absolutely.
So at the end of this, we're gonna play a quick little 30-second one. I'm gonna play it throughout the show. We'll probably play it at the beginning or whatever. Maybe do a intermission here or there or whatever and play it. But when you see it though, I mean, support him. Like I said, he's just a kid trying to make it somewhere. So like I said, thanks everybody for coming out like always, and I'll see you in 7 days. Go ahead, Aaron.
Okay. Again, I'm going to stand on education and awareness, having some sort of knowledge of what you see going on, and figure out how you're going to manipulate yourself through the minefield of them trying to put their hands in your pocket and take your money away from you. The 2030 agenda, as Bishop said, they're already saying that you will own nothing and you will be happy. Real assets, gold, silver, land, will be so expensive come then you won't be able to afford it. Start working on building generational wealth for the next generation. Leave something to your kids, because the world is, they're going to have to manipulate and maneuver in. It's going to be much harder than what we're facing right now. So leave them some assets that can be converted into cash to be able to help give them seed money to proceed into the future. And I'll stop there.
Well, I can't thank both of these guys right here for bringing the heat tonight. I very much appreciate it. As always, being a part of these conversations are always a blessing as we continue the truth seeking as we do, man. So with that being said, much love, honor, respect to everybody. Thank you, everybody that came around and was able to hit the like button for us. This is like what AB said. It's a lot of work behind the scenes that people don't see, like AB said as well, you have to be willing to look this kind of shit up, and we are, so that takes a lot of time. And so we really appreciate your guys' donations, hitting the like button, all those kind of things. They go a long way, man. So anyways, on my side, if you guys are on my side, make sure you guys stick around for the raid. We're going to be sending you guys off to my buddy Grid One Motorsports. He's live on a big panel. So anyways, let's go ahead and play this awesome video for AB's son, and let's do this thing. Appreciate you guys. Much love and respect.
We don't worry about nothing else. We control what we can't control, but we prepare to be dominant.
On a little bit better. Zayden Moore, though, can field it at the 45 and cut upfield. A great return here by number 1 as he is going to take it all the way in.
Sometimes you got to know what you know. They're going to call it cockiness. They're going to call it arrogance, but you're going to call it confidence. Do not allow my confidence to offend your insecurity.